Snap a picture, swipe a credit card, and cross your fingers. This week's headlines don't inspire much confidence about the security of our personal information stored online. Over the weekend, hundreds of nude photos of celebrities turned up on the web. Initially, people blamed Apple's iCloud file storage network, but Apple denies any breach of its security systems, claiming hackers targeted certain stars and obtained the photos by essentially guessing their personal passwords. It's a different story over at Home Depot, where hackers appear to have exploited a vulnerability in the company's security wall and are now selling stolen credit and debit card information on the black market. Both incidents raise serious questions about the security of our personal data and our expectation of privacy. Here to discuss ways of protecting your personal information is Jeff Flowers. He's the co-founder and CEO of Storient, a Boston-based cloud data storage system. Welcome to Greater Boston, Jeff.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Apple is basically essentially pushing back and saying, hey, we're sorry if your passwords are so simplistic, stupid, that I can guess them. It's your fault, essentially, that people were able to hack into our cloud storage. What do you say to that?
Well, I think fraud has gone on for a long time. You know, I remember the paparazzi would take pictures as well. They're doing that. And credit cards were stolen back when I used mine in a restaurant.
True.
And they stole the carbons for doing that. But the change has been that the internet now has brought about the ability to do this on such a massive scale that we weren't able to do. And because it's all new, we don't have new rules and new boundaries for how we set this up, make it happen. There are a lot of things. I think incidents like this are very helpful in that they bring up that users need to be more involved in the security of the data. My suspicion is a lot of people that put data up on iCloud didn't know it could be shared or accessed or be obtained by other
Didn't know
people.
they couldn't erase it, essentially.
That's right. Didn't even know they could get rid of it. I'm technical. My family's technical. We knew not to put pictures up. We don't put anything in the cloud we don't want people to see. We also know that most people don't like passwords. They put 1, 2, 3, 4. The most common is a password that somebody can easily guess. And until users are more involved in what their security is and what they put on the internet, and also even the contracts and the agreements that they have with service providers for this, I don't think this is going to change. It's a frequent story that keeps repeating
I agree with you on that. All right, let's bring Scott Kiernan into the discussion. He's a freelance arts and entertainment writer whose work has appeared in the Boston Spirit and the Improper Bostonian. So, Scott, I mean, should stars have reasonable expectations that their data is secure, that it's private, that even if it's in the cloud, that no one should be able to access it?
Sure. Well, I do think that before we ask whether stars should have that expectation, we should ask whether people deserve to have that expectation. Yeah. Right. So whether they're stars or not, if these are things that they're doing in their private time, then they're sort of entitled to the same level and expectation of privacy that you or I might be entitled to in that time. And you've had a lot of people asking over the last couple of days, well, why would you do something like this if you didn't have the expectation that it might get out there? To me, that's like saying, why'd you buy that really nice car if you didn't want somebody to steal it? We're sort of taking this issue and turning it around on the victims and blaming them and asking them to explain why they've been wronged.
Think about it. When you buy a really nice car and you don't leave it on the street in a dangerous neighborhood and you don't leave it unlocked and you take certain precautions when you have something that you fear is vulnerable.
But we do live in a world where most people, as he pointed out, sort of live in a world where they expect that certain aspects of their sort of internet world are theirs and theirs alone. They're not reading these long, lengthy, page-long contracts about who can access them and how secure they are, or they don't understand the jargon to really sort of communicate in that way. So they're putting, as we migrate our lives from the physical world into the digital sphere, we have to make people become more educated, absolutely, about sort of the ramifications of what they're doing. But we can't lose sight of the social contract that exists too, which is that there are certain sort of objectively moral implications about going into someone's space and taking their things and disseminating them.
But the fact that somebody would put this kind of, maybe they really didn't know. I don't know how you could not know that you had a nude photograph somewhere in the cloud, but the fact that people are that cavalier about really sensitive data, I find slightly shocking.
Well, she may or may not know that her data was on there. I think if I went through you with the iPhone sign up and you sat there and signed up for iCloud, you might not even know your pictures are going up there. The software and the people get to contracts. That said, I agree everything Scott says. We have social limits, but there's always been people who violate those limits for whatever reason.
And even this is kind of like pranksterism, unlike what's going on with Home Depot and Target, because that is grand theft.
That is grand theft.
There's a design to that.
It is, although I do think that there's something to be said that it's more than pranksterism when you're talking about taking women's nude photos and sort of sharing them en masse.
However, they're not getting any money out of it.
I'm not sure. They put them on websites that people go to see that have advertisements on them. So there is a financial gain.
Sure. And regardless, just the sense of violation and sort of harassment.
No, I'm not minimizing it at all. I'm just saying that it doesn't rise to the level of, grand theft, hundreds of thousands of breaches,
millions.
But it's a different story, really. It's not something that got taken through iCloud. It was like more like the old-fashioned, not the mimeograph, but taking data that had been stored somewhere and swiping it another way.
And again, we had a case where voicemails were intercepted because people didn't change their voicemail passwords. It's gone on and on and on. And at the end of the day, it gets down to a lot of user responsibility, the consumer having responsibility to protect himself.
Now, I will say on the voicemail thing, that you brought that up, I mean, I would think you would have reasonable expectation that when you leave a voicemail, as the royal family were doing, the fact that somebody could hack into that was even more mind-boggling in a sense than being able to hack into something that's kind of sort of out there,
I guess. I mean, I think that I might expect that I would have the same expectation in either of those situations. I sort of, as long as I'm not purposefully posting something online, my expectation that will be available to me and me alone is probably about the same as someone who might be placing a phone call and expecting that no one's going to be listening to them, especially knowing now about some of the various legislation that exists that may compromise that anyway.
Don't write anything down you want anybody else to see, and don't leave a voicemail.
Or don't leave I agree.
But it's call me back.
But it's interesting because, when we talk about security online, even just to bring that down to sort of the everyday level, most of us lay our head to sleep at night behind one shattered piece of glass or one wooden door away from someone coming in and violating us. Yeah. Compared to that, a lot of the security that already exists online is like Fort Knox in comparison. And yet we still sort of suggest that there's a greater level of culpability when people are affronted in that way than when someone breaks into their home.
Yeah. All right, good point. Scott Kiernan, thanks for coming. Jeff Flowers, appreciate it.